Hi, my name is Dennis Siri. I am Executive Director and founder of the New York City Independent Film Festival, Independent in Spirit, International at Heart, and this is the New York City Independent Film Festival Meet the Filmmakers podcast. Join us while we meet this year's filmmakers. Thank you. Bye bye. Hello, hi. Today we're here at this podcast with the crew and cast from Civic Duty. Welcome. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you. Pearl, you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Pearls Daly. I'm a New York City-based actor, producer, and burlesque performer. I am the producer behind the film Civic Duty, and I also play a role in the film. I play Dr. Deborah Crawford.
My name is Onyi. I'm originally from Germany. I came to the United States to pursue acting. I'm here since 2013. At this point, I work in many elements of the entertainment industry. And in the case of Civic Duty, I played the role of Professor Charles Young.
I am Arthur Wu, and I directed and wrote Civic Duty, and I'm a cinematographer and director based in New York City.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. All right.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, of course. Okay. So when did you first realize you wanted to be a filmmaker, and how did all that happen?
I think for me, it started kind of randomly, actually. I was in the music industry, and essentially at one point, I hired someone to shoot a little music video for a song I had created. And I'd been doing music probably like 15 years up to that point. And I had more set in those like 3 days that we were shooting the music video than I had in like the entire 15 years of creating music. And so I thought that, wow, like this is a really fun, creative thing. It's so different than what I'm used to. And so I bought a little camera, I started shooting like everything. I was that guy who was filming little, birthday parties, like random things happening on the street, and just started uploading to YouTube. And people liked what I was filming. And eventually friends and colleagues would be like, hey, can you film this little thing for me? And they'd offer me money to do it, and I was like, oh wait, I didn't know that you could get paid for something like this. And so eventually I started working on small little commercial type things, like for little promos, like one man band, and eventually moved to New York City. And we worked my way up in the commercial world. And just over the past couple of years, started studying screenwriting and filmmaking in general, and started to go into the writing directing path. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell.
For filmmaking specifically, it's actually a more recent realized journey. I've been an actor and a performer my whole life, and I always dreamed of being a studio head and, kind of being this grand character that made things happen. But took no steps towards that, of course, was mainly focused on being front of camera. And then 2020 happened. And as luck would have it, I happened to marry a very handsome and very talented cinematographer named Arthur Wu. We got married a week before shutdown, and so we had kind of a pandemic honeymoon. And during shutdown, about a month in, we both got very restless, and we were like, let's do something. Let's do something creative. And Arthur really wanted to shoot something, and I was like, well, I've had ideas for scripts over the years, like maybe we can patch something together. So we did, and we adapted a horror film thriller idea that I had, a film called Briar, and we actually shot it in our apartment, our first apartment together. And it was a lot of fun. We literally did everything from the set design, redesigning everything, from the directing and producing. Arthur shot everything. We actually green screened in the other talent, which was kind of exciting and fun. So we had to direct them from their homes. And we had a wonderful time, and I really enjoyed the process of putting it all together. And I realized there was really kind of something in there for me. So since then, I've kind of become his producer on all of his personal projects, and putting things together, on my own. And here we are with Civic Duty 4 years later. It's very exciting, and it's been really wonderful watching him grow as a director, because I feel like he's always had a director's heart and vision. And it's really cool to see, and I've really enjoyed the journey of getting to know the other side of the camera.
Very nice. And Ani.
Thank you.
And how about
Yes. So, yeah, as previously mentioned, I came here, I pursued acting, I studied a 4-year degree in Lower Manhattan. And for me, it was actually quite the opposite experience in a way where my professional opportunities started to happen significantly more on the other side of production. So, whilst I do have the training as talent, my real introduction to the entertainment industry is as producer and on the other side of things, not for film and TV, but for live entertainment. And that is how I met Pearls, who then made the connection to Arthur and offered me to join this project. So I'm incredibly excited to be part of it. And it's for me an opportunity to step into something that is my true passion and the reason that I came to the States. But it also was with people that I've met through my professional experiences.
Okay. Was your family and friends, when you said, "Hi, I'm going to be an entertainer, I'm going to be a filmmaker," what was their reaction? I mean, it sounds like you've all been at it for a while, so they're probably used to it, but what was their first reaction when you first said it?
Sure. Well, I'm lucky in the sense where I come from an artistic family. My father is a musician and a political cartoonist by trade, and my mother is a seamstress and a costume designer. So I kind of grew up uh, kind of tagging along to some of their gigs and growing up in like costume uh, houses. You know, my mom would be like doing the community theater's production of The Wizard of Oz, and I'd be hanging out and watching the actors and playing dress up. Um, I feel very lucky in that sense. Shout out to Kim and Brian Hurley for all of their support over the years. I love you guys. But it's always something I wanted to do. I never had a different vision for my life. I always knew I wanted to be in New York City specifically, and I always knew that I wanted to be an actor and an entertainer. And it's been fun adding this other thing of, you know, producing and behind the scenes work to that as well.
Well, I think for me, I come from a family of academics. My mother's is a doctor, and yeah, I think as a person, I strongly believe that driven people create opportunities, and I think I've been that person from a very young age. And I think my mother, who raised me, realized that very early on. So by the time that I told her about my decision to pursue a creative career in the States, she was very open to that because she's seen me work on different projects over the years, and she's seen the kind of attitude that I bring to these projects. And I think that is the kind of attitude that makes careers in this industry possible, because I don't think there's a shortage of opportunity, but I definitely do think there's a burden on the artists to pitch and create opportunities that audiences or clients or anybody else is interested about and interested in engaging with.
I was DJing and I guess producing music since I was like 14 or 15. So I was still very young. And at the time, it was mostly a hobby. And so that's what it was always seen as. And so, I grew up in a environment with, not just my family, but a lot of my peers uh, were more of a, I would say, like working class background. And so initially I studied to be an engineer, and I actually worked in a software company for a number of years while I was, pursuing music on the side. And then eventually I switched over into video and film production. And when I eventually was able to make it a full-time thing, I think they understood what I was doing. I think the one thing that they were always concerned about was whether or not I'd be able to actually pay my bills with it, because I guess the template from where I grew up was the I guess the cliche starving artist thing, where there weren't a lot of templates of where I grew up as far as people who were actually full-time artists doing just that thing. And so I think from when my dad was actually my accountant, kind of when I started working in the working world. And I think when I switched over, when some of the when he was seeing that I wasn't like failing financially, that was like a okay, you're doing this thing, and we may not fully be immersed in it as you are, but that's cool that you're able to kind of support yourself in that particular way.
So the next question is, do you have a support group of filmmakers, your tribe, where you are? But it sounds like you very much do, but I'll still ask the question. So do you have a tribe, your go-to people in the creative world that you have?
I'll probably start on this one. I mean, for me, again, I think a lot of these connections come through professional relationships, and I do think that is a really important thing to embrace, because I think all of us do work to pay our bills, but at the same time, many of us also have personal interests and aspirations, and I think that is really where you meet your future collaborators, right? You meet them in a work environment, and then you can do a project such as Civic Duty that might lead to future opportunities with people sharing a similar vision. Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky. I feel like I'm married to my greatest muse. So I I'm kind of built in that way, which is really a huge blessing. But I will say that um, something I've really enjoyed, and it kind of ties into, your favorite collaborators. I deeply enjoy casting for projects. And one of my greatest joys over the last, specifically, actually this last year, has been casting some projects, both for us and for other people. I feel like over the years, I've just always been a person that kept a very strange Rolodex in my head of people that I've enjoyed working with them on sets, or they have such a unique look or such an interesting voice or talent that I file them away. And there's nothing more thrilling than when I get to kind of contact this person out of the blue and be like, hey, do you want to do this film, or do you mind sending in a tape for this? Because I think you'd be really perfect for this part. And when it all comes together, it's just so exciting. Civic Duty is a great example of that too. Again, I worked with Onyi at a gig we were at a fish market, and it was so funny. I was playing a shrimp cocktail. I literally had a giant shrimp on my head. I'm in this glass, and this gig went on for like 3 hours, and we got these like 15-minute breaks. And um, I was so taken by Oni's presence and his elegance and his voice. And we got to talking on one of the breaks, and I was like, so what do you do when you're not helping shrimps get into glasses? He was like, I'm an actor. And I was like, interesting. Because one thing that when Arthur wrote this piece for the leading man, he was like, I want this leading man to be elegant and to come off educated and to have a way of speaking. And there was just something that clicked when I was talking to Oni, and I was like, well, this, call me crazy, but my husband wrote a piece, and I think you'd be really good for it. I'll put you guys in touch, and we'll have you audition. But that has like been a really exciting thing to me. Is kind of building a stable of talent, and also people on the other side, whether they're gaffers or getting to know different people has been really fun. And I'm looking forward to continuing to kind of grow that group that you're asking about. So
Great. Author?
Yeah, as far as community goes, I mean, it's been a long time in the making. I've been full time in the industry for a little over 8 years now, and just over the years, one of my director colleagues that I work with on commercial projects, she says to me that or she gave me this idea that you'd be open-minded in every set, because there's someone you meet that you can keep in touch with, or that might work with you in the future. And so on every set, I get an opportunity to just keep in touch with people. And over the years, I've just been able to collect people who are on my contact list, who are very like-minded, have similar work ethic. And I think those things, aside from the aesthetic sense, and the talent sense, I think there's so many talented people out there, but who are you really going to connect with on a creative level and on a human level? And I found that to be the most important thing. And so I've definitely have my core group of friends and colleagues that I work with, and just all across the board, people that I work with a lot on commercials, and then who want to work on creative things. I'll call them for creative projects, or they'll call me, and so on and so forth. So building that community has been really important. And yeah, of course, Pearls, my wife, who supports me in pretty much every aspect. I mean, last year and a year before, she started thinking about getting behind the camera for the first time, like really get into it and start producing. And so she helped me produce Civic Duty, and then we also produced, or she produced we did like a multi-city documentary series together. And just to kind of see her grow in that particular way of like just dealing with all things production, I think has given, has helped me a lot, but also has given her that additional skill set, which I think is super helpful as as an actor. She can now look at things from a different perspective, not just in front of the camera. So, but yeah, that's kind of the support group that I have.
So Arthur, I guess you're the driving force behind this movie. What made you? Why this film? What made you make Civic Duty? What was that moment when you said, "This is a film I'm going to make"?
Well, I actually had a dream about this entire concept of controlled hypnosis during the pandemic. Like one morning, I just woke up after it was kind of it wasn't like a scary dream, but it was more like, oh wow, this is happening. Like this happened in my dream, and it was a story that I was like, oh, it's a heavy sci-fi influence thing. There's a lot more special effects in my head, and so I was like, wow, this is a story that I kind of want to just get off the ground and create and see what I can do. But obviously, with the short film, there's a little bit more of a limited budget, and I had not really screen written before, since I primarily came up as a cinematographer. And so through the process of just just studying different films and screenplays, and really it kind of coincided with me studying film, because I was not a director, but I was just starting to kind of get into it, and really giving myself a film education, just starting to watch a lot of classic films, stuff from like the 40s and 50s, and I was just kind of really inspired by that. So I figured, one scene from this story could be something that was created with that 1940s 1950s aesthetic, with the black and white and the transatlantic accent. And we really worked hard on that to kind of capture that mode or that mood, and to make that happen. And so that was kind of the impetus behind it. And I would love to make it into either a miniseries or a feature film, but what I have in mind as the ultimate end goal is it would include like a lot of special effects, a lot of actors. So that's a much bigger project down the line, but that's kind of initially how the whole thing got dreamed up.
So I'm going to put the next two questions together. It's all three of you, please. What was the hardest part, and what was the most fun? Because I'm always curious, especially when you have multiple people. I've actually had people where the hardest part was somebody else's most fun part. So what would you say? What was the hardest part? What was the most fun? Pearl?
I'll jump on that
Okay,
one.
Sure. Go ahead.
I think that the hardest part for me was actually directing and shooting at the same time. And as a cinematographer, I've worked with many different types of directors, some who are extremely experienced, very technical, they know exactly what it is they want, all the way down to directors who are just more of actor directors, who they don't put as much of a focus on technical. They'll kind of leave that to me. And so, I've had a range of experiences with people who tell me exactly where to put the camera, to people who are like, oh, I trust you, like, just kind of, do what you like. And if I like it, then we'll move forward with it. And so for me, having to make all those decisions was, in addition to kind of working with the actors, was something that I don't think I was prepared for, in terms of the energy that it took. I mean, of course I was prepared with my shot lists, and and we did the rehearsals, and dealing with the crew, but it was the first time that I had seen in production, in my production life, oh wow, like this is how a cinematographer could, this is what I could do as a cinematographer to support directors. And so even though it was very difficult to kind of wear both hats, it gave me a great insight into how I could be not only a better director as far as like working with the crew, but how I can be a better director of photography, giving what a director might need. Because there's been many times where I've had to kind of step in for the director because they were not familiar with a certain part of the production, and I would have to kind of help them, handhold them, and walk them through certain things. And in my thought process, it was just like, well, maybe like directing is just this, but it's just maybe just a little bit harder. And so the hardest part was actually focusing on the actors and the technical. And I don't think that that's something that I want to do moving forward, maybe for like smaller projects, but for narrative films where like, I've written it and directing it, actually a project we have coming up, I'm hiring a DP. And so, that was a big learning experience for me.
This shoot was 2 days. First shoot was the black and white sequence, if you will, and then we shot a sequence modern day. The black and white sequence, I feel like because of the transatlantic accents and all of the groundwork we had laid for those scenes, I felt really excited and really celebratory on that day going into set. It was also our wedding anniversary, which I thought was really, really sweet. We started shooting this project like for our wedding, on our wedding anniversary, which was awesome. So, you know, I went in guns a-blazing. I feel like the second day of shooting, I learned a really pivotal moment for me producing wise, where sometimes as an actor, when you have a really difficult scene, whether it's emotional or whatever you're trying to convey, and you're also producing, it's good to get help. So I definitely learned that lesson as a producer. You know, if you're really shouldering a lot of heavy dialogue or some, you know, more heavy emotions, to have help with the producing and the other hats that need to be worn that day.
I think for me, the most challenging part was the accent, just given that English is not my first language. So it did take me a lot of practice. I did work with a vocal coach as well, and of course did plenty of rehearsals with Pearls and Arthur. The thing that was certainly most fun to me was the experience on set. I think it was run extremely well, and it was really exciting to see both how enthusiastic everybody was and also the level of professionalism that everybody brought to a smaller project like this. So seeing how lighting was done, seeing how like makeup and all of it was really done to a very, very high standard. And for me, just walking into that based on Pearl's invitation was a really, really, really pleasant surprise.
Okay, so this is a question I ask everybody and I get different answers, but we all know that if we stay in the indie world, we're not going to buy mansions from the money that we make. So what would you consider success in the indie film world? What does success look like? Well, it's definitely not the dollar signs. So what is success?
One thing we always said in acting school is that you earn the right to do it again tomorrow. I think that's a little bit of a dark view. I don't believe in the idea of the starving artist, but I do believe in the burden and responsibility to create excitement around your product. So I think, I mean, I'm a textbook workaholic. I just always am doing something. So I'm personally not too concerned about that element, but I do think there are sacrifices that you have to make in other areas to sustain a career in this industry. I don't know what success looks like. I guess balance. I think that's you know, finding a way to manage a career in this industry while still having some sort of retreat. I think that's success.
I really think that it's just getting something done to the best that you could do it, because I've heard the saying, and I'm pretty sure everyone's heard the saying that, you know, it's a miracle that anything gets created in the film industry. And I really didn't understand it until this first film, because, you know, there's so much that goes into it that even through my years of production experience, just kind of seeing the whole thing come together, and then going to another film festival and just seeing all the other filmmakers there, and seeing that everyone, it was really, you know, a community spirit, which I had never really experienced before, because, you know, as a cinematographer, I don't, you know, you don't have as, or I don't have as much of a stamp on a project as much of as a director or producer does, because they're in it from like the very beginning to like the very end. It's just after going through this particular project, it's for me, it's just being able to have the initial idea and being able to execute it well, to the standard that you want, to the best of your ability. That to me is what success is, you know, regardless of the accolades or anything else that it brings. Because you know, I think to be able to have a story in your head and to take it from the execution of, you know, the ideation through the script writing process to the execution and production and then finishing it in post, and just having it to be able to exist out there in, you know, a high quality format, you know, with a great story behind it. I think that's, to me, that would be the ultimate success. And I think of a lot of indie filmmakers who have done such a thing, and you know, some of them have had major commercial success and some of them have stayed indie, but they're always able to have some sort of through line and voice in their work. And I think to be able to maintain that I guess kind of cliche, but to be able to maintain that kind of artistic integrity, to do what you want and say what you want to say in this particular format, I think that is what success has meant to me over the past couple of years that I've been kind of studying screenwriting and directing.
I always like to practice how I play, and I think that indie film is a great, they're great little moments in time that you will have forever. And I think that coming into this game as an actor, having done multiple, both lovely and not so lovely indie film experiences, I knew exactly how I wanted to run my ship. Meaning, I'm like, this might not be like a multi-million-dollar film, but whoever is going to be involved in any of our projects is going to be proud of them, and they're going to enjoy their time, and they're going to want to share it, and it will live forever, which I think is really awesome. And I think that's, you have to start somewhere. And I think that there are a lot of very successful indie filmmakers who have, like Arthur says, have gone on to do uh, many big things. But I think you have to start quality and you have to start small. And I'm really proud of everything that we've done. And I'm really proud of the experiences that everyone has had on our sets. I feel like that is success to me, for sure.
That's cool. All right. Basically my last question is, your 12-year-old niece or nephew comes walking along and goes, I want to be an indie filmmaker. What do you think? And so what would you say? What would be your pearls of wisdom? What would you say?
Well, I think indie filmmaker is extremely specific, but I do have, in fact, two younger siblings that are pursuing arts, following my example. And I tell them you can do it, but you have to expect to work more than other people, because this is not a job that ends at 5:30, right? So you have to, that is just, if you want to do it, you just like, it is a commitment beyond a 40-hour week. And that just has to be something you're willing to accept. And if you're looking for that, you're good, and if not, then that might not be the best decision.
My like networking brain would immediately switch on and be like, so like, do you need a director? Do you need like a DP? Like, what's your what's your crew
How can
looking
I help?
like?
Uncle Arthur's here. Let's do it.
Yeah. But seriously, I think if someone who knows what they want to do that young, I think that's amazing. And I really would encourage them, and just try to, if they do need help, if they want any advice or whatever for anything that I've done, I'd be, just to me, it's someone who knows what they would want to do from that early of an age, I think is an amazing thing. And I think that should be encouraged. I really didn't figure out what I wanted to do kind of like until my late 20s. And so yeah, I think it's great.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So anyway, and I'm old. I'm done. I'm sorry, Pearl. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I mean, I agree with what both of the guys just said. And on that note too, I can't help but if a young kid who knew what they wanted, whether related or not, ran up to me and said that, my first initial reaction would be to encourage them, because I agree with what Arthur touched on, where if a child knows what they want at such a young age, and again, it's so specific, how can you not encourage that? I mean, I kind of was that kid. I was, from a young age, I'm like, I'm moving to New York City and I'm going to be a performer. I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to do a dance for you right now. And then I would. But I would say that one thing I would wish as that kid, because I kind of was that kid, is I wish I had somebody who could talk me maybe through some of the realities of what those things are in like a very fun way. Because I think that when you're more prepared with certain skills, you're able to pull off things more effectively. It's like, for example, I follow this producer on Instagram. He's more of a theater guy, but he brings up great points. And he was like, I wish that high schools, they're always doing their spring musical. Why don't they have a kid produce it? Have a kid be in charge of the ticket sales. Have a kid be in charge of the time in, time out for the crew. Have somebody like learn those behind the scenes jobs, because they're really valid and they're legitimate careers moving forward. Sometimes people think they want to be the star of the movie, but maybe they're actually like the star producer who's going to like make it all happen, who has the personality and then the skills to execute those things. And I thought that was so incredibly brilliant and well said, because also I think there are kids who maybe are attracted to this business, who they think they want to be actors because that's all that gets thrown at them. But the truth is they have these gifts. They have so many gifts that could lead to these really exciting and valid careers. So I think I would really foster that kid, because they need that. They need adults to be able to be like, wow, my kid really wants to be this thing. What does that mean? What skills do they need to execute that job? And you know, as a future parent, I mean, that's so exciting to me, because when a kid really wants to do something, I mean, you got to go all in. You know what I mean? You got to be as excited, if not more excited, for them to kind of discover who they are.
Well, that's it for me for questions. So I guess anybody want to say anything, or?
I just want to say thank you for having us, and we're really excited and honored to be a part of this festival.